Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the intro, Ravi. As you said, I work at Walmart Labs. I lead what's called category development, which is mainly selling what are the products we sell on Walmart.com, what search capabilities are available, how to price them, etc. Walmart Labs is it's a two-part organization. We're based in the US and California, and we also have a good presence here in Bangalore. So I lead what's called category development and in Bangalore, and I also lead part of the customer acquisition teams here. So I'm here to talk about some of the growth aspects in the context of product discovery. As you grow your site and hope to get more traffic, and you also grow all the products that you're selling, there's interesting challenges that come up. We've faced some of these challenges, and we have some new approaches that we've been pursuing, and I'm here to talk about them. So how do people discover products that on an e-commerce site? The most common approach to discovering products is search. Most of the e-commerce sites have good search engine capabilities. They search lists out generally products that you're intending to purchase. They also provide some amount of discovery capabilities, but from a search perspective, you try to search for products, then you refine, you narrow down, you use, on the left-hand side, there is generally navigational elements which say, okay, I'm looking for color green, I'm looking for color blue, etc., which essentially you're still in a narrowing down mode of operation. So you have the intent of the user is could be broad, could be narrow, depending upon what they're searching for. But the search paradigm is to generally say, here's a set of results, I want to focus down and kind of narrow down into a certain set of products which I may eventually buy. There are some elements that we do and other sites do too. The topmost right showing the square icon to the top right and the list icon. The square icon, essentially the gallery view or the grid view that most search pages have. Essentially, the idea is to say facilitate a lot more products to be shown to the user at a single, in a single view. That becomes more challenging, especially as you go onto mobile devices, which is where a lot of the traffic is shifting to right now. But given there are still users on desktop, etc., and even on mobile devices, most applications try to do either a list view or a grid view. And the whole purpose of grid view there or gallery view is to promote discovery again. A slightly related thing while in the search space is autocomplete. So the point here is, one is to help the user not type in long queries, not make typing mistakes. Those are kind of the obvious ones. But the second, kind of a little less obvious feature here is actually guiding the user into a different area, which is facilitating discovery. So I started searching here for nurse. My intent here was actually to search for nursery furniture. But while I'm searching for nursery furniture, nursery bedding is also suggested to me. Most autocomplete systems also try to list out, if you see the top line there, it says nursery furniture sets in baby. Most autocomplete systems also list out a bunch of categories that the suggestions fall under. And that essentially gives the user a hint to say, okay, don't limit yourself. It may not be necessarily what you're looking for, but here are some alternative suggestions and areas that you could start exploring. Once again, the intent there is to facilitate discovery and to guide the user to say, this is the start of your shopping experience. We don't want to narrow you down too much and provide you as broad a function here as possible so that you find the right thing that you're looking for. These results are typically ranked based on sales data, how many users are clicking through some of these links. A lot of parameters go into ranking them. The results are ranked. If you have multiple categories that are matching your particular suggestion, then even the categories are ranked. So there's a lot of algorithmic work that goes on into facilitating discovery here. A slightly different class of problems for discovery is what we call as guided experiences. Here, the intent is to say there is a certain class of products that we sell. Example is tires. You want to buy tires that fit your car. That's a basic minimum requirement. Anecdotally, there are some people who bought tires that don't fit their car. And what that results in, you buy tires, you get it delivered to the store, you find that you take your car there, you find that it doesn't match, then you return it. It costs a lot of churn to the user, and it causes a lot of cost to the company too in dealing with all of this. So the point here is to say, for this set of products, how do you facilitate accurate discovery and to make sure that the user does not make a mistake and end up with the wrong set of tires while you're purchasing this. So what happens with most people here, when we show this to everybody, the first thing that you do is you say, let me go check my car. Does Walmart sell the tires that for my car? People check that and then say, oh, I didn't know that Walmart actually sold tires for my car. And that is where the discovery part comes in. So there's two pieces here. One is to say, I don't want people to make a mistake and buy the wrong thing. And the second part is also facilitating discovery that you actually didn't know that Walmart may or may not be selling your car, tires for your car. And this applies to a lot of other products too. These are called fitment-based products. Basically, these are typically the set of products that says you have to have these specs saying it's what is the make, what is the model, what is the year, what is the, if you're buying an oil filter on an engine filter, what engine size do you have? All of that determines exactly what is the product that you're going to buy. And if you buy the wrong one, then you're in trouble. And that's exactly what we're trying to prevent here. Different approach, or this is also very common in most e-commerce sites. I want to browse through a set of products. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. So in this case here, this may be a couple that got engaged recently, or a guy who may be willing to, is about to propose for marriage. He's maybe looking for an engagement ring, doesn't really, not sure what is there. If he's anything like me, he was probably clueless as me. But the point is, you navigate through a set of menus and arrive at what's called a browse page or a shelf page, which lists out still at the product level and provides some ideas to the user. At the top of the page, there are a bunch of kind of promotions, if you will. Sometimes these are, I'm talking about the certified diamond rings, bridal sets, solitaire rings. So this is completely to facilitate discovery. I don't really know what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm looking for a cubic zirconia ring. Maybe I'm not, but at least it's available there so that you know that you can discover these products. The point here, again, is to say the user is navigating into this. The taxonomy, this is usually driven through site taxonomy. And it's a controlled experience, but from a navigational perspective. But at least it's mostly to say, here are the set of products available to you, and you're exploring here. Okay. Another kind of page that we have to discover products is called category pages. This could be something like here. This is what's shown here is the toys page on Walmart.com. We could also think of it like electronics, TV, home video, lots of category pages there. These are also meant to be exploratory. The key goal here is to facilitate discovery. This, if Diwali is around the corner, I tell my kids, you want to make a Diwali list, go take a look and figure out what products inspire you or not even excite you. So kids don't necessarily, they have some certain things in mind, then they come and take a look at this and say, oh, I can get this done. I want that Nerf gun there on the page. So this is largely meant to be inspirational. The content here is a combination of curated content and algorithmically generated content. So the top characters, et cetera, this page essentially is composed in a bunch of series of modules. And a module like the top characters is typically algorithmically generated. A module like chosen for kids may be curated content. The point here, once again, is discovery, so that you're still you're not sure necessarily what to buy, but you're just exploring and looking around. Talking about some of the challenges here. So we have typically either within the internal search engine or externally from SEO, SEM, all the other growth channels. We have all the tags necessary to land the users on right pages. A query like party supplies, either when you're searching in Google or when you're searching internally in Walmart.com, also would land you on something like a category page. Party supplies is a very broad category. You're talking about, what plates I want, what theme I want, what hats I want to wear, any pom-pom stuff, etc. Lots of things cover a party supplies query, and therefore it's generally a very broad query and lands on, for example, a category page. Something like party favors is a little more specific. It says, okay, I'm only buying this one thing, and the intent here is to largely look at a set of products directly, and that's where we end up taking them to. It's called a browse page. Something like Disney Frozen Scene Setter Kit is a very specific, the intent of the user is very specific, and therefore at that point we want to say, okay, take them to the direct item that matched that query and land them there. These are very common things that everybody does. So then what do you land something like Disney Frozen Party Supplies? We may or may not have a page for it, and as the number of queries like this grow and the number of SKUs that you carry grow, then where you land them is a very challenging problem. And this then leads you to think, okay, what are the things that the users are actually looking for when they come and search? What are the questions they're actually trying to answer? So here are some examples of what we see. What should I buy to decorate my baby's nursery room? How do you answer that question? Some of these questions there are themes and stuff like that you can do. Some can be classified, some can be addressed, but the class of problems here are what are the latest trends in shabby chic home decor? Therefore, we see a lot of these kinds of queries, and this is where it actually starts getting challenging to land them on the right page and provide them the right results. Another challenge, so this is a representation of SKU growth. Most e-commerce sites want to grow exponentially by expanding the number of products that they carry. Walmart.com does too. And as the number of SKUs grow, the key challenge that you have to address is product discovery. How do you make the user, now from here it has gone to this much, and now how do you facilitate discovery so that you can drive your business goals, like driving conversion and also addressing user experience at the same time. So there are some possible solutions. You can say, okay, as my number of SKUs grow, I will develop all the algorithms to classify them algorithmically and classify them into nice taxonomies. As the taxonomies also grow, then it becomes a navigational nightmare for the user. You don't want a taxonomy that is 7, 8 levels deep so that you go through 8 levels of clicks in order to see some products. You also don't want a taxonomy that is too broad that everything gets bundled into like a single page and then you just paginate and paginate and paginate. So the user experience on taxonomy wants to be reasonably controlled, but then how are you going to surface all of these other products that you've now enrolled to sell on the product on the site? You can try to editorially or curate, editorial/curation is a possibility. You say, here is Disney Frozen party supplies. I'm going to create a separate landing page for it. Next thing is going to be, what about Star Wars party supplies? What about Avengers party supplies? That just explodes, and fundamentally, I think editorial and curation is slated for very high quality content that you can provide, and you want to get the user's attention. But beyond a certain point, it's not going to scale in order to serve all of these queries. You can use some community as like Pinterest and Product Hunt and other such sites. Some retailers have integrated with them, some retailers haven't. This is still a growing area, not too much traction here, but this doesn't solve all the direction of user queries here also. So what we've developed in Walmart.com is something called topics and themes. And these are things that we feel address the more softer side of product discovery. Most of the approaches that even we've seen here so far are kind of product attribute based and are driven off the catalog, driven off all of those things. Topics and themes, given our examples of like a latest trend in shabby chic home decor, is not really a product attribute thing. It's mostly a soft kind of a query. And how do you start serving them, given that this is where we see a lot of queries also coming in, is the challenge here. And we've developed these technology called topics and themes. So what are they? So the goal is to facilitate discovery at a higher level and not necessarily narrow the user down to too much focus initially. It works a little bit opposite from the way of how search and browse work. You search, you narrow down, you narrow down. Here, this is to say I search for something, but I'm still getting to see some other things that are related topics and themes, et cetera. So what we do is we algorithmically generate what we call as across category interest pages. And this is where topics and themes are essentially interest pages. Cross-category is very important here, primarily because of you want to give as broad a selection to the user as possible. In Walmart, we typically talk about something called aisle crossing, which is essentially, if you go to a store, you may be looking for maternity clothing this side and baby toys is on the other side. You literally cross the aisle in order to go purchase products from the other category. Aisle crossing is primarily a cross-category facility or addresses cross-category essentially interest pages essentially address aisle crossing, and essentially you give as broad a selection to the user as possible. These may or may not necessarily fit into the site taxonomy. We just talked about it. You don't want it too broad and too deep, and therefore, but we still want the user to be able to find this and for search engines to find this. The other thing this also does is to say, typically most, for the last 10 years or so, most e-commerce sites have item-to-item recommendations, which is like saying, here, you saw this item, or customers who purchased this item also bought these other items, or customers who viewed these items also brought these other items. Those are all still at the item-to-item recommendations. Once we actually have topics, then you can say, I bought a Lego Ninjago toy for my son, and you can look at an Avengers or another class of products actually completely. And this technology facilitates that also. And, lastly, this is going through the site taxonomy or any navigational thing is a controlled environment for a good reason. But it doesn't address, as your demand changes and, it's winter, it's seasonal, people start searching for, frozen themed mittens. This technology essentially then, because it's demand-driven also, or driven off a lot of the queries that we see, it adjusts to demand on the site also. So what does it look like? So here is a theme page from Walmart.com. The point here is this is largely inspirational. You don't really know, well, you're not sure what you're looking for. You might want to say, I want to decorate my kids' nursery. So here are some possible themes. Is the user necessarily going to search for the words that you see on this site? Possibly, they may be searching somewhere, but the intent is I want to decorate my kids' nursery. Flitter flutter is something not necessarily maybe they're searching for, or dancing foxes may not be the first thing that occurs to my wife when she looks for some of these things. So the idea here is to generate these topics and surface them to the user and say, here are the kinds of things that you should be thinking of. Here are the kinds of things that we have in the product catalog, but this is all algorithmically surfaced up, taken up to a much higher level so that it becomes inspirational at this point. Ladylike ladybugs or tubby teddy bear, these are all themes that people love, and then they say, oh, wow, I like the dancing foxes theme. Let me go check out the set of products in that theme and possibly result in a purchase. And the challenge here is to say, how do you do this at scale, and how do you do this completely from the set of products that you have? One more example. This is called gift guides. These are trying to say, based on various type of gifts that people give and various type of occasions that we end up encountering in our daily lives. Here are suggestions for you to go and explore. Some of these things could come through, surface through taxonomies, but not necessarily all of them. My favorite one on this side is on the left side, you see white elephant gifts. If you go to a white elephant party, you typically want to take a gift there, and hey, what are some ideas for me to get to take a gift for a white elephant party? The net of this is, as we see the users, the set of queries that they're doing, both inside Walmart.com on our search engine and outside in Google or anywhere else, and SEO or SEM is driving traffic to us, we see a lot of these kind of queries which either don't fit into a taxonomy, which don't fit into a standard browse search paradigm, but we see a higher level of request here. Think of like party planning, and that essentially is driving us to feel that this is actually a key technology that user. These pages are actually linked in through our product pages. So it eventually gets crawled by all the search engines, and therefore it is also discoverable through other channels. So we feel that this is actually an evolution effectively in discovery. We start with basic search, go through browse, category, etc. And the next level of taking the user and finding and addressing user's intent, this is the next direction of satisfying user intent and purchases. That's basically what I had.